Dae-ho Kim wiped the sweat from his face as he looked at the strange building in front of him. The mining robots had found it 3 days ago, buried deep under the crystal rocks of Kepler 442b. Nobody expected to find anything like this on such a faraway planet. The building was made of a metal that seemed to change colors in the light. It was smooth and curved, unlike anything humans had ever built. Dae-ho had been studying old alien things for 10 years, but he had never seen anything this beautiful or strange. "Are you sure it's safe to go inside?" asked Jinwoo, his assistant. The young man looked worried as he checked his air tank again. "The scanners show no danger," Dae-ho said. "But stay close to me. We don't know what we might find in there." They walked through the opening in the wall. Inside, soft blue light came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The walls were covered with symbols that seemed to move when Dae-ho wasn't looking directly at them. The air felt thick and old, like being in a place where no one had been for a very long time. In the center of the room was a large crystal container. Inside the container, Dae-ho could see a being that looked almost like a person, but not quite. It was tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of silver. Its eyes were closed and it wasn't moving. "Is it dead?" Jinwoo whispered. Before Dae-ho could answer, the being's eyes opened. They were completely black, like looking into deep space. The being looked at Dae-ho with such sadness that it made his heart hurt. You are not like the others," the being said. Its voice came not from its mouth, but from inside Dae-ho's head. "You look at me and feel pain for my pain. This is unexpected." Dae-ho stepped closer to the container. "Who are you? How long have you been here?" "I am Velthari, last of the Netherians. I have been sleeping for 10,000 of your years, waiting for someone to find me. I hoped it would be my people, but they are all gone now." The container began to open with a soft hiss. Velthari stepped out slowly, like someone who had been lying down for too long. As soon as the alien's feet touched the ground, Dae-ho felt a wave of terrible loneliness wash over him. "Gone?" Dae-ho asked. "What happened to them?" "A sickness came from the stars," Velthari said, sitting down on the floor because standing seemed too hard. "It ate through our minds first, then our bodies. We were the most advanced people in the galaxy, but we could not stop it. In the end, only I was left." Dae-ho sat down across from the dying alien. He could see that Velthari was very sick. The silver skin was turning gray and the being was having trouble breathing. I put myself to sleep, hoping that when I woke up I would find that some of my people had survived somewhere else. But I can feel it now. There are no more Netherians in the universe. I am the last, and soon I will be gone too. "I'm sorry," Dae-ho said, and he meant it. The sadness he felt for this stranger surprised him. Velthari looked at him with those deep black eyes. "You truly are sorry. You feel pain for someone you have never met, from a people you have never heard of. This is why the universe chose you to find me. I don't understand. In all our travels across the stars, we met many kinds of people. Some were strong, some were smart, some were beautiful, but none of them cried for strangers. None of them felt real sadness for the pain of others. Except yours." Velthari reached out with a thin hand and touched a panel on the wall. The room filled with a warm golden light. "My people learned many things in our long life. We discovered how to travel between stars, how to heal any sickness, how to make machines think like people. We built cities that floated in space and gardens that grew on dead worlds. The alien coughed, and Daeho could see silver blood on its lips. But we never learned the most important thing. We never learned to care about others the way you do. That is why we died alone, while you humans help each other even when it costs you something. What are you saying? I am giving you everything we learned, all our knowledge, all our discoveries, all the things we built and dreamed of. Maybe you can use them better than we did. A crystal box rose from the floor between them. Inside, Daeho could see thousands of tiny lights dancing like stars. This contains the memory of our entire race. How to heal the sick, how to travel faster than light, how to speak with your minds instead of your voices. Technologies that could make your people the strongest in the galaxy. Daeho stared at the crystal box. Why? Why give this to us? Because you are the first people we found who would ask why instead of just taking it. Because you feel sad. For me, even though you gain nothing from my sadness. Because when you found me, your first thought was not, what can I get from this, but how can I help? Velthari was getting weaker. The silver skin was now almost completely gray. Your people alone mourn for those they never knew. Perhaps you will succeed where we failed. What do you want us to do with this? Whatever you think is right. We give it freely, with no rules or demands. We trust you because trust is something your people understand and we never did. The alien fell forward, and Daeho caught the frail body in his arms. Velthari looked up at him one last time. Remember us, Daeho Kim. Remember that we lived and loved and dreamed even if we did it badly. And when you use what we have given you, remember that the greatest gift is not what you receive, but what you choose to give to others. With those words, Velthari died in Daeho's arms. The last Netherian was gone, but their gift remained, glowing softly in the crystal box. Daeho held the dead alien for a long time, crying for a people he had never known, in a place far from home. Jinwoo put his hand on Daeho's shoulder and cried with him. Later, when they called Dr. Hyjin Park on Earth to tell her what they had found, Daeho could not stop thinking about Velthari's last words. The greatest gift is not what you receive, but what you choose to give to others. Humanity was about to find out what those words really meant. Dr. Hyjin Park stood in the communication room of the Earth Space Center, staring at the crystal box that had arrived from Kepler 442b 3 weeks ago. The scientists had barely begun to understand what was inside it, but they already knew it was the most important discovery in human history. The data is incredible, said Dr. Changmin Lee, the head of technology research. This single crystal contains more scientific knowledge than our entire civilization has learned in 1,000 years. Medicine that can fix any disease, engines that can travel between stars in days instead of years. Computers that think like people but faster. Hyjin nodded, but she looked worried. Have you told anyone outside Earth about this? Not yet. But we can't keep it secret forever. The trade ships talk, and some of the mining crew on Kepler 442b saw the alien building. Word is already spreading through the galaxy. As if he had heard them talking, Admiral Kang Tae-min walked into the room with a serious look on his face. Dr. Park, we have a problem. The Galactic Trade Consortium has called for an emergency meeting of the Council. They want to know about our archaeological discovery on Kepler 442b. How much do they know? Hyjin asked. Enough to be interested. And when the big powers get interested in something humans have found, it never ends well for us. 3 days later, Admiral Taemin stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council on the space station Nexus Prime. The hall was huge, with seats arranged in circles that went up to the ceiling. Each section was designed for a different alien race. Some needed water, some needed different air, some were so big they needed special platforms. Humans had only been members of the Galactic Council for 50 years. Their section was small and near the back, which showed how little the other races thought of them. Earth was seen as a young, weak planet that had nothing important to offer. The leader of the council was a Quillan named Trade Master Zilnova. The Quillans looked like giant insects, with blue shells and many arms. They controlled most of the trade between planets and were very rich. "Human Admiral," Zilnova said, her voice sounding like metal scraping against stone. "Tell the Council about this discovery your people made." Taemin stood up slowly. He knew that every word he said would be studied and judged. 3 weeks ago, our archaeologist Daeho Kim discovered the remains of an ancient alien civilization on Kepler 442b. The last member of this race, who called themselves Netherians, gave us their collected knowledge before dying. A sound like thunder filled the hall as hundreds of alien voices started talking at once. The largest and loudest voice belonged to War Prime Thexkar of the Drakmori Empire. The Drakmori were warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. Thexkar was 8 feet tall, covered in red scales, with 4 arms and teeth like knives. When he stood up, even the other council members became quiet. "You expect us to believe," Thexkar said, his voice deep and dangerous, "that the legendary Netherians, the most advanced race in galactic history, gave their secrets to humans? To primitives who have barely learned to travel between stars?" "It is what happened," Taemin said calmly. "Impossible," shouted another voice. "This came from Logic Prime Kextal of the Zeph Collective. The Zeph were a race of machines that had once been living beings, but had put their minds into robot bodies. The Netherians were logical beings. They would not waste their inheritance on a species that still fights wars over pieces of dirt." Zilnova raised one of her many arms for silence. "Human Admiral, what exactly did these Netherians give you?" Taemin had hoped to avoid this question, but he knew he had to answer. "Complete technological databases, medical knowledge, engineering, designs, energy systems, space travel methods, and other technologies we don't yet understand." The hall exploded into noise again. This time the sounds were angry and greedy. Every race in the galaxy had heard stories about Netherian technology. It was said that they could build planets, control time, and travel instantly across the galaxy. "This is madness," Thexkar growled. "Giving such power to humans is like handing plasma cannons to cave dwellers. They will destroy themselves within a solar cycle and probably take half the galaxy with them." "The Drakmori speaks truth for once," Zilnova said. "Humans are too young, too violent, and too stupid to handle such dangerous knowledge. They must be protected from themselves." Taemin felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice steady. "The Netherians made their choice freely. We will use their gift responsibly." "Responsibly?" laughed Kextal. "Your species still has wars over water and old religious books. You poison your own planet and fight each other over resources that could be shared. What could the Netherians have been thinking?" "Perhaps," said a new voice, "they were not thinking at all." This came from sage speaker Velkris of the Alterian Conclave. The Alterians looked like tall, thin people with silver skin and large eyes. They were known for their wisdom and long lives. The Netherians disappeared 10,000 years ago, Velcris continued. Perhaps the last one was mad with loneliness. Perhaps its mind was broken by whatever destroyed its people. That would explain such an irrational decision. The council members nodded and made sounds of agreement. The idea that the great Netherians would choose humans seemed so crazy that madness was the only explanation they could accept. Taemin looked around the hall at all the alien faces staring at him with disbelief, anger, and contempt. He realized that no matter what he said, they would never believe that humans deserved this gift. "The decision is made," Zilnova announced. "For the safety of the galaxy, Earth will be placed under protective quarantine. No human ships will be allowed to leave their solar system until the Council can determine the safest way to handle this situation." "Quarantine?" Taemin stood up. "Quickly. You have no right to imprison an entire species." "We have every right," Thexkar said with a nasty smile. "The Galactic Security Treaty gives the Council the power to contain any threat to galactic peace, and humans with Netherian technology are definitely a threat." "The quarantine will be for your own good," Zilnova said, but her voice did not sound caring. It sounded hungry. "During this time, the Council will send experts to help you understand this technology safely. Of course, some of it may need to be removed for the safety of all." Taemin understood what was really happening. The major powers were not worried about humans being dangerous with Netherian technology. They were worried about humans becoming too powerful. The quarantine was just an excuse to take the technology for themselves. In the back of the hall, Lieutenant Commander Boram Yu sat in the small human observer section. She watched as the Council voted on the quarantine. Every single race voted. Yes, not one voice was raised to defend humanity's rights. As the Council meeting ended, Boram quietly activated her emergency transmitter and sent a coded message back to Earth. "They're coming. All of them. The quarantine is just the beginning. They want the Netherian gift, and they will take it by force if necessary." Admiral Taemin walked out of the council hall with his head held high, but inside he felt worried and angry. The aliens saw humans as primitive children who had found something too dangerous for them to handle. They did not understand that the Netherians had chosen humans for a reason. But what was that reason? And would humanity be strong enough to keep the gift that had been freely given to them? The answers to those questions would determine not just the future of Earth, but the future of the entire galaxy. The great powers were already making plans to take what they thought should be theirs. They had no idea what they were really up against. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council declared the quarantine around Earth's solar system. The alien patrol ships floated in space like metal sharks, watching every human planet and station. But something strange was happening. The humans were not fighting back or asking for help. They had simply gone quiet. Chief Engineer Min-Soo Lim stood in the underground laboratory on Mars, looking at the Netherian crystal that glowed softly in its special container. Around him, hundreds of scientists from Earth and all the human colonies worked day and night to understand the incredible gift they had been given. "Have you found anything new?" asked Dr. Yunbi Choi as she walked into the lab. The brain scientist looked tired but excited. "Every day we find something amazing," Min-Soo said. "Yesterday we learned how to make materials that fix themselves when they break. Today we discovered how to grow food that never spoils and has all the nutrients a person needs. But the strangest things are the files about mind technology." "What do you mean?" Min-Soo pointed to one of the screens showing complex diagrams. The Netherians didn't just build machines to help their bodies, they built technology to connect their minds. Look at this. They found a way to share thoughts and feelings across their entire species while still staying individual people. Yunbi studied the information carefully. This is incredible. They could feel what every other Netherian was feeling, but they didn't lose themselves in the group. It's like having a conversation with the entire universe while still being yourself. But here's the strange part, Minsu continued. According to their records, this mind connection technology was their greatest achievement and their greatest failure. How can it be both? Because they could only make it work with other Netherians. When they tried to connect with other alien species, something went wrong. The other species either couldn't handle the connection, or they became afraid and rejected it. So the Netherians ended up more alone than ever. Yunbi felt a chill run down her back. They were the most advanced people in the galaxy, but they couldn't make friends with anyone. No wonder they felt so lonely. In another part of the lab, Dr. Young-Soo Han was studying the medical files. What he found made him call everyone together for an emergency meeting. "I think I know why the Netherians gave us their technology," Young-Soo announced to the group of scientists. "It wasn't just because they liked us. They were trying to fix the mistake that killed their entire civilization." "What mistake?" asked Unbi. "They became too perfect. Look at these medical records. The Netherians had no diseases, no aging, no physical problems at all. But they also lost something important. They stopped feeling strong emotions. They couldn't feel real joy, real sadness, real anger, or real love." Min-Soo frowned. But Daeho said the alien who died seemed very sad. That was probably the first real emotion any Netherian had felt in thousands of years, Young-Soo explained. When Velthari saw Daeho crying for him, a complete stranger, it woke up feelings the Netherians had forgotten they could have. That's why he chose to give us everything. So they gave us their technology, because we still have feelings they lost? Yunbi asked. More than that. I think they gave it to us, because humans have something they never had. We can feel for others, even people we don't know. We can be sad for strangers, happy for enemies who succeed, and willing to help people who can't help us back. Meanwhile, on the outer colonies, Captain Jae-Woo Shin was testing some of the simpler Netherian technologies. His small ship, the Harmony, had been modified with new systems that seemed almost too good to be true. "Captain, you need to see this," called his science officer, Lieutenant Ari Kim. "We've been monitoring the local wildlife since we installed the new bioharmony system, and something amazing is happening." Jae-Woo looked at her scanner readings. "These numbers can't be right. Are you saying the local animals are actually coming closer to our base instead of running away?" "Not just coming closer. They're bringing us things. Look outside." Jae-Woo walked to the window and couldn't believe what he saw. Around their small research station, dozens of alien animals were gathered peacefully. Some looked like giant birds with rainbow feathers. Others were like walking trees with eyes. A few resembled enormous cats with 6 legs and crystal fur. All of them were calm and unafraid. "The bioharmony system is working better than the Netherians thought possible," Ari explained. "It doesn't control the animals or hurt them. It just lets them understand that we're not a threat. And somehow, they seem to understand that we actually want to help them." "Help them how?" "Watch this." Ari activated a small device, and immediately several of the bird-like creatures flew over carrying bundles of local plants. They're bringing us medicine plants. The scanner shows these plants can cure diseases that affect both humans and the local animals. They're actually trying to help us help them. Jaewu stared in amazement. The Netherians' technology isn't just advanced, it's kind. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Su-Jin Moon was monitoring alien communications from her secret station in Antarctica. What she discovered made her call an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. The quarantine isn't holding, she reported to General Dong-hyun Park and the other commanders. The alien powers are starting to get nervous because they can't see what we're doing, and they're hearing strange reports from their patrol ships. What kind of reports? Asked the general. Some of their crews are asking questions they never asked before. Questions like, why are we keeping the humans prisoner? And what if they're not dangerous? A few patrol ships have even been caught, sending friendly messages to our colonies. General Park looked puzzled. Why would alien soldiers suddenly start sympathizing with humans? Su-Jin smiled grimly. Because some of our outer colonies have started testing the Netherian harmony technology. It has a longer range than we expected. The alien soldiers are beginning to actually understand how humans feel, and they don't like what they're feeling. From their own commanders. Are you saying the technology is affecting them without them knowing it? Not controlling them, Su-Jin corrected. Just helping them understand emotions and motivations they couldn't feel before. For the first time in their lives, some of these aliens are feeling what it's like to want to help someone else just because it's the right thing to do. Dr. Yoonbi Choi had been listening to the conversation, and now she spoke up. That explains why the Netherians failed with other species. They tried to force the connection, but humans are doing it differently. We're not trying to control anyone, or make them think like us. We're just sharing what it feels like to care about others. The question is, said General Park, what happens when the alien leaders realize what's happening? They won't like losing control of their own people. They'll try to stop it, Su-Jin said, and the only way they can stop it is by destroying us completely. Outside, in the cold Antarctic night, human scientists continued their quiet work. They were not building weapons or preparing for war. Instead, they were learning how to share the Netherians' greatest discovery, the knowledge that the universe was not a place where species had to fight each other to survive. It was a place where they could choose to help each other thrive. But, first, they had to survive long enough to prove it. The alien fleets were coming, and they would arrive with enough firepower to turn Earth into dust. The humans had 6 months to get ready for the greatest test in their species' history. The combined alien armada appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a storm made of metal and death. 3,000 warships from the Drakmori Empire, the Quillen Federation, and the Zeph Collective floated in perfect formation. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. War Prime Thexkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Blood of Conquest, looking at the tactical displays. Finally, we will see what the humans have built with stolen Netherian technology. Probably crude weapons that will break after the first shot. Trademaster Zilnova's voice came through the communication system from her own command ship. Remember, Drakmori, we want the technology intact. Try not to destroy everything when you crush them. The humans will surrender quickly, added Logic Prime Kextel from the Zeph Dreadnought. My calculations show they cannot possibly resist a force this size. But as the alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system, something unexpected happened. Instead of meeting them with weapons, the humans sent a single small ship, Fleet Admiral, Woojin Nam sat alone in his tiny vessel, the Open Hand. The ship had no weapons, no shields, and no armor. It was barely larger than a transport shuttle, and it looked fragile and helpless against the massive alien war fleet. "This is Admiral Woojin Nam of Earth," he broadcast on all frequencies. "I come to speak with the commanders of your fleets." Thex Carr laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "One ship? One human? This is their great defense? I am almost insulted." "Let him speak," Zilnova said. "It will be amusing to hear him beg for mercy." But Woojin did not beg. Instead, he did something no one expected. He activated an Etherian device that filled his ship with a soft golden light. The light spread out in all directions, moving faster than the alien sensors could track. "What is he doing?" Kextel demanded as his instrument started showing readings they had never seen before. The golden light reached the first alien ships and passed through them like sunlight through water. It did not damage anything or hurt anyone. But suddenly, something strange began happening throughout the alien fleet. On the Drakmori ship Painbringer, Sub-Commander Kresh felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, he could actually understand what the humans were feeling. He felt their sadness about the coming battle, their wish that it didn't have to happen, and their genuine hope that somehow everyone could find a peaceful solution. "Sir," Kresh said to his captain, "why are we attacking these humans? They don't want to hurt us." Captain Vexmore turned to stare at his subordinate. "What did you just say?" "I can feel what they feel, sir. They're not evil or dangerous. They're scared, just like we would be if someone brought 3,000 warships to our home." On the Quillen trading vessel Prophet's Edge, Engineer Takna was having similar thoughts. She had always followed orders without question, but now she could feel the genuine confusion and fear of the human civilians hiding on their planets below. "Why are we doing this?" she asked her supervisor. "What have these humans actually done wrong? They found some old alien technology and decided to study it. How is that a crime?" Throughout the alien fleet, soldiers and officers were asking questions they had never thought to ask before. The harmony field wasn't controlling their minds or changing their thoughts. It was simply letting them experience empathy for the first time in their lives. On the command ships, the alien leaders were becoming increasingly frustrated and confused. "Status report!" Thexkar roared. "Why aren't we firing?" His weapons officer, a young Drakmori named Felkar, looked up from his console. "Sir, I've been thinking, what if we're wrong about the humans? What if they're not a threat?" "Wrong?" Thexkar's voice was dangerous. "We are never wrong. Fire the main guns." But Felkar hesitated. For the first time in his military career, he was feeling doubt. "Sir, respectfully, maybe we should listen to what they have to say first?" Similar scenes were playing out across the entire alien fleet. Crews were refusing orders not out of rebellion, but out of genuine confusion about why they were there in the first place. Communications Officer Dan B. Kim's voice came across all frequencies, calm and clear. "Commanders of the Allied fleet, we know why you came here. You're afraid that humans will use the Netherian gift as a weapon against you. We understand that fear, because we felt the same way when we first received it." "Lies," Thexkar snarled, but even his own crew was listening intently to the human's words. "But the Netherians didn't give us their technology to make us stronger than you," Danby continued. "They gave it to us to help us understand something they never could. That the galaxy doesn't have to be a place where species fight each other for survival. It can be a place where we help each other thrive. On the Zeph command ship, Logic Prime Kextal was struggling with calculations that no longer made sense. His logical mind told him that humans were inferior and should be conquered. But the harmony field was letting him feel something that didn't fit into any logical equation. The simple human desire to be friends instead of enemies. "This is impossible," he muttered to his second-in-command. "Emotions are inefficient. They serve no logical purpose, but these human emotions, they make me want to protect them instead of destroying them." "Perhaps," his subordinate said quietly. "Logic is not the only way to understand the universe." Admiral Wu Jin's voice came through the communications again. "You came here expecting to find humans who had become dangerous with advanced technology. Instead, you're feeling what we felt when Daeho Kim held a dying alien in his arms and cried for someone he had never met. This is what the Netherians saw in us, not strength or intelligence, but the ability to care about others even when it costs us something." Throughout the alien fleet, soldiers were laying down their weapons and refusing to fight, not because they were being controlled, but because they were finally understanding what it meant to choose compassion over conquest. Sub-Commander Kresh turned to his captain and said, "Sir, I formally request that we withdraw from this attack. These humans are not our enemies. You dare to question orders?" Captain Vexmore raised his weapon, but then stopped. He was feeling it too. The strange sensation of caring about beings he had never met. "Yes, sir, I do. And I think you're questioning them too, aren't you?" On the bridge of the Open Hand, Admiral Wu Jin watched as the massive alien fleet began to break apart. Ships were turning away, refusing to advance, or simply floating in space as their crews debated what to do. "This is impossible," Trade Master Zilnova broadcast to her fellow commanders. "How are they doing this to our people?" "They're not doing anything to us," came a voice from one of her own ships. "They're showing us who we really are underneath all our fear and anger. The invasion was falling apart, not through superior firepower or clever tactics, but through something much simpler and much more powerful. For the first time in their lives, thousands of alien soldiers were discovering what it felt like to choose kindness over cruelty." The harmony field continued to spread, reaching more and more ships, and with each ship it touched, the galaxy moved a little bit closer to the dream that the Netherians had died believing in. A universe where different species could work together instead of fighting each other. But the greatest test was still to come. The alien leaders were not going to give up their power easily, and they had weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. The real battle was just beginning. 6 months after the failed invasion, the Galactic Council met again, but this time, the Great Hall on Nexus Prime looked very different. The old sections for the major powers were mostly empty, while new areas had been built to hold representatives from dozens of species that had never been allowed to speak before. Ambassador Young-Ho Park walked to the center of the hall, carrying the same crystal container that had started everything. But now he was not alone. Behind him walked former slaves from Drakmori worlds, oppressed workers from Quillen factories, and individual Zeph who had chosen to become alive again instead of staying as machines. "Honored beings of the galaxy," Young-Ho began, his voice carrying clearly through the harmony field that now connected every person in the hall. "We are here to discuss a new way of living together among the stars." In the Drakmori section, War Prime Thexkar sat alone. Most of his commanders had refused to return to their old duties after experiencing the harmony field. Some were still loyal to him, but many more had joined the growing movement for change. "This is madness," Thexkar growled. "You cannot rebuild the entire galaxy based on feelings and weakness." From the crowd of former Drakmori soldiers came a familiar voice. It was Sub-Commander Kresh, who now wore no uniform and carried no weapons. "With respect, War Prime, it is not weakness we have found. It is strength we never knew we had. The strength to choose what is right instead of what is profitable or powerful." Young Ho smiled sadly at Thexkar. "The harmony field doesn't make people weak, War Prime. It makes them honest. Your soldiers didn't stop fighting because they became cowards. They stopped fighting because they finally understood what they were really fighting for, and realized it wasn't worth the pain they were causing." Trademaster Zilnova spoke from her section, but her voice was not as confident as it used to be. "Even if what you say is true, you cannot change thousands of years of galactic civilization overnight. There must be order, there must be rules, there must be leaders." "You're absolutely right," Young Ho agreed. "But the question is, who should the leaders be? And who should they serve? Should they serve themselves and their own power? Or should they serve all the people they are supposed to protect?" A new voice spoke from the crowd, a small, furry being that had never been allowed in the council before. "I am Pipka of the Miners Guild from the Centauri sector. For 300 years, my people have dug precious metals from dangerous caves to make the Quillen Federation rich. We were never paid fairly, never treated well, and never given a voice in decisions that affected our lives." Pipka held up a small device that glowed with the same golden light as the human harmony field. "But now, thanks to the humans, we can share what it feels like to work in those caves, to lose friends in accidents that could have been prevented, to watch our children grow up poor while others get rich from our labor. And now, the Quillen, workers feel it too, and they don't want to be part of hurting us anymore." Young Ho nodded. "This is what the Netherians dreamed of but could never achieve. Not conquest or control, but understanding. When people truly understand each other, they choose to help instead of hurt." Logic Prime Kextall stood up in the Zeph section, but something was different about him. His mechanical body was still the same, but his voice had something it had never had before: warmth. "I have calculated the efficiency of the new system," he announced. "A galaxy based on cooperation instead of competition, on helping instead of exploiting, on understanding instead of fear. The results are surprising." "Explain," demanded Zilnova. "When people are not afraid of each other, they share knowledge freely. When they are not competing for resources, they find ways to make sure everyone has enough. When they are not wasting energy on wars and oppression, they can spend that energy on discovery and creation." Kextall paused, and for the first time in centuries, he seemed to be feeling instead of just calculating. "The mathematical conclusion is clear. A galaxy based on the human model of empathy and cooperation would be approximately 847% more efficient than our current system. We would have better technology, longer lives, more happiness, and far fewer problems." Young Ho activated a projection that filled the hall with images from across the galaxy. "This is not just theory anymore. It's happening. On worlds where the Harmony Network has spread, crime has dropped by 90%. Productivity has increased because people want to do good work instead of being forced to. Scientific discoveries are happening 3 times faster because researchers are sharing information instead of hiding it." The images showed Drakmori worlds where former soldiers were now teachers and builders. They showed Quillen factories where workers and managers made decisions together. They showed Zeph collective farms where machines and organic beings worked side by side as equals. But the most important change, Young-Ho continued, is that people are happy. For the first time in thousands of years, beings across the galaxy are waking up excited about their day instead of afraid of it. An old alien in the back of the hall stood up slowly. She was one of the sage speakers of the Alterian Conclave, the species known for their wisdom and long memory. "Young human," she said in a voice like wind through ancient trees. "I have lived for 2,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall, species appear and disappear, wars that lasted centuries, and peace treaties that lasted days. But I have never seen anything like what you have accomplished." She walked closer to Young-Ho, and everyone in the hall could feel her deep amazement through the harmony field. The Netherians were indeed wise to choose your species. Not because you are stronger or smarter than the rest of us, but because you have something that we had forgotten was possible. The ability to look at a stranger and see a friend you haven't met yet. Young-Ho felt tears in his eyes as he thought about Dae-Ho Kim holding a dying alien and crying for someone he had never known. The Netherians didn't give us their technology so we could rule the galaxy. They gave it to us so we could heal it. Suddenly, the crystal container began to glow brighter. A holographic image appeared above it, the figure of Velthari, the last Netherian, speaking from beyond death. "Children of many worlds," Velthari's voice filled the hall. "You have done something we never imagined possible. We gave humans our knowledge hoping they would survive where we had failed. But you have done something far greater. You have made our survival meaningful by ensuring that no species will ever again face extinction alone." The hologram looked directly at Young-Ho. "Dae-Ho Kim, who held me as I died, asked me what we wanted humans to do with our gift. I told him to do whatever he thought was right. Now I see that he understood what right meant better than we ever did." Velthari's image began to fade, but his final words echoed through the hall. "The gift was never wasted. It was multiplied beyond our wildest dreams." As the Galactic Council session ended, beings from dozens of species came together to sign a new charter. Not a treaty of conquest or trade agreements, but a promise to help each other grow and thrive. Young-Ho looked out the great windows of Nexus Prime at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Captain So-Young Bay was preparing the exploration ship New Harmony for a journey to the galaxy's edge, where isolated species waited to learn that they were not alone. The Harmony Network continued to spread, not as a weapon or a tool of control, but as a gift freely shared. And with each new world it reached, the galaxy became a little more like the dream that had died with the Netherians and been reborn through human compassion. Director Su-Young Im of the new Galactic Harmony Institute stood beside Young-Ho at the window. "Do you think we're really doing what the Netherians wanted?" she asked. Young-Ho smiled. "I think we're doing something better. We're doing what they would have wanted to do if they had been brave enough to trust other species the way they finally trusted us." Below them, the great ships of the former invasion fleet were being converted into exploration and aid vessels. Warriors were becoming teachers, traders were becoming healers, and machines were choosing to feel joy for the first time in their existence. The gift had not been wasted. It had been transformed into something even more precious. Hope that the universe could be a place of friendship instead of fear. And in the quiet depths of space, the harmony field continued to grow, carrying with it a simple message that the Netherians had never been able to send. You are not alone. You are loved. You matter. The galaxy would never be the same.